Well, hello everyone, and welcome to another True You podcast with me, Paula Burns, creative confidence and visibility mentor. So, this is a place where we have open discussions to understand who we are in order that we can live our lives to the fullest. And so, every week I bring on a special guest who is sharing their version of their true life, sharing their journey from, how they got here, the ups and downs, the challenges, and just so that it helps you, the listener, to realize that everybody's journey is different, but also not just to hear about the stories, but also to be inspired. So let's get straight in and meet my guest today. Welcome, Jan Ockendon.
Yeah, yes. Yeah. Hello.
Hello. I mean, my listeners are used to me sort of like faltering with names just to make sure I get these names right, because that's so important to me that names are you. So
Yeah.
I need to get them right.
Oh,
So
that's fine.
welcome to the show.
Hello. Hello. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome. Let's sort of kick things off and just let everybody know, what is it that you do, Jan?
I actually wear several hats. My experience is mental health nursing, psychotherapy, and life coaching. Various different bits of life coaching. But what I do now is I work with women to help them, to empower them really, help them sort of rediscover and recalibrate and not reassess, but kind of re-sit into who they actually are,
Yeah.
where they've come from, to get rid of all the societal patterns, all the generational patterns that they've kind of brought with them. And I help them sort of light a fire in their heart and soul to get back to who they really are and get back to their own desires.
I feel that this is such a big topic right now.
Yeah.
I feel that women in particular are struggling with
Mm.
this, forgetting who they are. I see it as forgetting who you are. Um, Sort of like, where we forget what we've accomplished, where we've come from, who we are, what the foundations of who we are. And
Mm.
so, yes, you're in this arena, which I feel,
Mm.
there's many of us in terms of coaches and mentors that are touching on these areas, but all in different ways. And me as a mentor for doing very similar to you is to helping women reconnect with who they are, and also, but the icing on the cake on top of what I do is to help them come up with creative ways to communicate their message.
Yeah,
They have to understand who they are before they can communicate that out to the world.
absolutely.
I think
Yeah.
so many women are trying to, they hear this thing about, having confidence, and yet they're just trying to do it based on something that has no depth and no meaning. So
Yeah.
going through the motions of, yeah, I just need to show up. But how are you showing up?
Yeah.
And what do you believe in? But you mentioned just before you said what you do, you mentioned that
Mm.
you've got different hats, and I think a lot of us have got that as well. So
Yeah.
hats. So are you
Yeah.
still, I mean, at the moment, do you wear all those hats, or as well as what you do with the women that you work with?
Yeah. So I'm still seeing kind of therapy patients, or therapy patients, therapy clients that come via the directories.
Yeah,
I'm not working in the NHS anymore, which I was doing before.
yeah.
Um, but I do still see therapy clients via the directories, and I work with one of the platforms as well that
Mhm.
bring me therapy clients. So I probably do something slightly different there. But actually, some of it's all going to bleed in together because it's going to, isn't it?
Yeah, it's all linked. And again, that's
Yeah.
another thing that I love to bring out is all the connections, because you're doing what you do because of the things that has happened to you over the years, and they are
Exactly.
linked in some shape or form.
Yeah, of course
And
they are.
that's what I want to cover as well during the podcast is, just go through a few things and ask you a few things about your journey. And I
Yeah.
want to sort of, before I do that, to go further into that, I just want to ask you, what do you love the most about what you do right now?
I think the thing that I love the most is just watching women reconnect with themselves, just kind of drop back into their body instead of being constantly on watch, on guard, um, just watching what everybody else, what people might call people pleasing, which I think actually is more safety behavior. Really, it's
Yeah,
keeping themselves safe. It's dropping back into themselves and watching the light come back on in their eyes.
yeah,
I see
yeah.
so many women come into my room and men actually, I've seen a couple of men too, it almost looks like they're smiling, but the light's not on, if that
Oh,
makes sense. And I just love seeing that light come back on again.
yeah. It really does make sense. Yeah,
Yeah,
people are just showing up, but not with the depth and, with the joy. I feel joy,
yeah,
peace, and all of those things are so
yeah,
important in life that it's totally lost. It's
yeah,
totally lost. So,
absolutely.
it means so much to have people like us in the arena, just helping people to reflect and to come back to themselves. Um, Jan, I want to ask you a little bit about your childhood. So
Okay.
I want to take you back and if you can share with us what your childhood was like, because like we said earlier, everything's connected. And I feel like, when that's what we forget a lot is
Mm,
what are some of the key things that happened to us when we were young? And then what were the stepping stones that got us to where we are now, especially because I'm talking to you as somebody who feels like you're in your true space, you are living your true life. But I want to hear about, where did that start? Who was Jan as a little girl and growing up um, and those steps you took?
so, what was I like as a little girl? Upside down most of the time.
Ah,
I did. My mother would have told you that I was that person that would pick up hobbies and then drop them again.
mm,
Um, Classic. Yeah. And so I had a lot of I was quite sporty. I
yeah,
did it, but the sporty things that I did were not often team sports.
right.
So, I was quite good at netball and I was quite good at hockey, but I never got picked. I was not picked for the teams. I never put myself forward for the netball team, but I was never picked for the class teams and things like that. But I did gymnastics, I did dancing, I was a horse rider. Absolutely loved horses.
Oh my
I still
goodness.
do. I still have to walk past the farm and sniff the horses because I love the smell. But yeah, that's if I had the smell of horses on me, I was happy.
Yeah,
Um, all animals actually. Always loved animals.
yeah,
Um, but I was trying to think. I didn't always have lots of friends,
yeah,
but I always had a few core friends.
yeah, yeah.
I was bullied as well at school. I think I was slightly odd, probably. I can remember being called Gobby, um, and loud and noisy and getting told off for wriggling constantly. I mean, you might see I move about quite a lot when I'm sat. Um, and apparently I talk too much. And I never slept as well.
Do you know what? I love it. I love hearing these stories because these are all the unique things about you,
Yeah,
all the special, amazing, wonderful things about you.
yeah,
And I feel like, as you're growing up, people sort of say to you and they reflect on you their insecurities. It's like,
yeah,
oh no, you shouldn't be like that. Why are you doing this? And why are you fidgety? And why are you this? And why are you that?
yeah,
But these are all the unique things about you.
yeah, absolutely. There were a couple of key things that I can remember that one was I'm absolutely terrible at maths, but I was really good at times tables because I could learn them by rote.
There you go.
I could read the page and just
Yeah,
learn the things. I couldn't play it.
yeah,
If you ask me something slightly abstract about it, no way.
yeah.
But words, anagrams, and things like that come really easy.
Good for you.
Um, yeah. And the other one was that um, I can remember my nana saying to me, I used to stay a lot, go and stay with my nana and granddad quite a lot, that she always remembered waking up at about 3 o'clock in the morning and hearing me sitting in bed singing because I'd woken up because I never slept or didn't sleep well as a child. and was singing in the bed, not bothering anybody, not getting out of bed to come and wake anybody else up, just
Just
using myself.
in
Yeah.
your own world.
Yeah, well, and that was it. I used to get called a dreamer all the time. You're always dreaming. And I wasn't, I was plotting, but I wasn't always dreaming.
There's nothing wrong with dreaming at all. I absolutely love dreaming. I was just such a
Me
dreamer.
too.
Yeah, and this is where my creativity comes from, and this is
Yeah.
where I always prefix what I offer to my clients with creative, because a lot of people say that they're not creative, and I know it's not a natural thing for everybody, but I do sort of think totally outside of the way other people think. So, I can get like various bits of information and I can create it in a completely different way than anybody else would create it. And so I think that's why I bring that into what I offer to my clients. So yeah, creativity and that whole sort of dreaming thing is
Yeah.
just, yeah, it just creates that specialness, you
Yeah.
know. So when you were growing up then, what happened in terms of, like school, leaving school, and then what sort of careers did you go to then? What was the first you went for?
So high school was, I hated high school. I didn't do very, I mean, I'm old enough to have done O levels, and I think I got about two first try, and then
Yeah,
had to go back and was not allowed to stay on and do A levels. So I left school and then went and worked on a what was it called? I can't remember how they described the yard, but it was a competition and livery yard that had and stud work as well. So that they had a couple of horses that used to they used to have foals and things like that. So
yeah,
um the person that I worked for was an ex 3-day eventer, um and her and her mum used to bring on these horses and things. So I went to work with them. So there were a couple of government schemes that I did, and then I went to work at a riding school and did a couple of the British Horse Society exams. So that was my first career, if you
yeah,
can call it that.
yeah.
And I did that for quite a few years. Worked on 3 or 4 different yards with different people, which was great.
But you loved because you talked about the animals. So did you really, I bet that was a great experience for you then during those years.
Yeah, it was. It was great. And a lot of people say, they talk about, I want to horse ride, I want to horse. And I liked riding, but I actually just loved being with the horses.
Horses, yeah,
Yeah, being in
yeah.
the yard. And of course, stable yards always have cats.
Hmm.
And I'm probably the mad cat lady. So that was great. And they always had
You
dogs as
just start
well.
saying about mad cat lady. I mean, come on, you can be a cat lady, but it doesn't have to be mad.
And we've
I
got
think,
4, we're about to get another. So it's like,
oh.
I'm sure a lot of people would say that is like,
Yeah.
but yeah. But yeah, so there was always cats, there was always dogs, there was always horses around.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
and then I went into mental health nursing after that, which is completely different, isn't
Yeah, it really is. Why did you go into that? Did something steer you into that direction?
I've got a really heightened sense of justice and injustice, I think. And one of the things that guided me was I don't even know where this came from, to be honest. I don't know whether it was something I'd heard or conversations that I'd had, was about the Vietnam War and the
Yeah.
veterans that didn't get the help that they wanted. And the little voice inside me just went, not on my watch, they don't. Yes,
Mhm.
nobody gets left behind. So
Yeah.
yeah, I went into mental health nursing from that and moved away from home completely. So I was brought up on the west coast of England, um, not far from Liverpool, and
Yeah.
then came over here to where I live now in Yorkshire to train at one of the big Victorian asylums.
And what was that like leaving the sort of like animals type of atmosphere of life that you'd lived up until then? What was that
Not
like?
as bad as, yeah, well, it wasn't as bad as you'd think because although I was living in the hospital was kind of on the edge of Leeds. Um, so that it was surrounded by farmland.
Ah,
So I
perfect.
could just 5 minutes walk and there's my animal fix.
Oh, perfect, perfect.
Yeah,
Again, it is that, what are those little connections that you've always kept
it,
throughout your life? And sometimes inadvertently,
yeah,
those connections were there. So, and
yeah,
who's to say that because of those connections, that didn't help you to thrive more? Who's to
absolutely,
say?
absolutely. And I did actually. I have to admit, I did sneak a guinea pig into the nurse's residence. So I had a little hutch in my room with a
Yeah.
guinea pig in it.
Oh gosh, right. Okay, so you went into mental health nursing, and how long
Yeah.
was that for? Then what did you move on to?
So, well, actually, I went into mental health nursing in 1987 and I didn't really leave. So I did my training, worked for a year in the NHS, and then went to work in the private sector for a bit, working in nursing homes actually. So with older adults, because I absolutely loved it. The stories that those people could tell you was great. But again, a lot of injustice because a lot of them had been, I
Right.
mean, there were some right stories that I can tell. Um, so I worked there about 1995, I left. So for
Hmm.
quite a long time, I was in sort of mental health nursing, but then I did childminding, which again is slightly different.
And
But
where did that come from?
because we had our own kids, so I'd got married in that sort of space of time. I'd got married, we'd had our own kids,
Yeah.
and it was a way of still bringing money in, but being with the kids at the same time, being able
Mhm.
to take them to school and bring them home. Um, and I love children anyway. For a year of my training, I spent the last year of my training, I actually managed, talking of creativity, creatively making the space for me to work with the children
Yeah.
on the
Oh,
children's units. So yeah,
yeah. Oh my goodness. And again, for people listening, circumstances can take us to different places, like it did with you, but it still felt like a natural thing for you. You did it. Some people will tell the story when they say, "Oh, well, I moved into doing this because I was just pushed into it," or they felt like, "Oh, it was just something that they had to do. It was a necessary evil sort of thing." But then there's other people who say, well, it was natural. It was like a natural move. And
yeah,
I enjoyed that period of my life. So,
yeah,
and from what you say, it was something that you enjoyed doing anyway, because it kept, you had that little bit of creativity in there as well.
yeah,
And, you had a family to look after and, you could bring more children into that. And yeah, so it
yeah.
was,
It was good. But then I went back into mental health nursing when our third daughter was a year old,
yeah,
which took me to university and opened up a bit of a sort of, because I had to do that because I'd been out of nursing for, I think if you've been out for 5 years, you've got to do a return to practice.
that's
So I had to
right.
do that.
Yeah, yeah,
So I had to do that. And that actually lit in me a bit of a love of learning and not academia, because I don't like being, I'm not particularly academic.
yeah,
Um, but that learning and expressing myself in that way. Um,
yeah.
so it wasn't when I was in back in mental health nursing, doing working with older adults again for a little bit, and then went
Yeah,
to work with the working what they call working age adults, so
yeah,
between 18 and 64,
yeah.
um, on an acute ward, and ended up actually working while I was there. I ended up working with women on an all-female ward, which opened my eyes to a lot of what happens to women
Oh,
in
there you
healthcare.
go. There's the thread. There's the
There's the thread.
thread.
Yeah, there were a couple of things that I saw there that I thought, I can't unsee this.
Mm,
And it sat, I mean, I have to admit, it did sit for quite a long time.
yeah,
And that sort of the knowing grew
yeah.
through various different things. But yeah, then I went to work with in primary care, which is at GP level. So
Mm,
with primary care mental health service,
yeah,
which became IAPT, which is still around now.
yeah, yeah.
And that love of the academic stuff after I went back into nursing also grew. So I did my degree
Mm,
and and actually graduated at 43 while I was five,
oh,
6 months pregnant
well,
with our fourth.
ah. Yeah, such an achievement. Yeah, but you followed that path and you just kept moving
Yep,
through that
yep,
path.
yep,
And the seeds were sown in different places.
yep,
So the seed was there, and now you're doing what you considered to be something that really lights you up, that
yep.
fills you up. Can you can you remember a time when you felt like you lost your way, Jan?
Um, I think actually that time between my degree and then doing my therapy training, which took me to postgraduate, it felt it felt like a massive turmoil when I
Mm,
was pregnant because partly because the service that I was working in changed
right.
and the way that they worked, the therapy that they were moving more towards was not what I wanted to do.
Okay. Okay.
And I was also I was pregnant perimenopausal, so if anybody's perimenopausal, you can get pregnant while you're perimenopausal. I did. So yeah, that time was really difficult. Although it was great having a baby,
Yeah, but
and
yeah,
I've been a completely different mum to him than I was to the other three. But
yeah.
it did feel also quite kind of, I don't really know who I am and where I'm going. And I
Mm,
think the psychotherapy training actually came from that.
yes, yeah, yeah.
Um,
Um, and how did you navigate then your way out of that?
I think probably I've only just in the last sort of 5 years when I've been working with a coach and
Mm,
um, doing that more kind of personal development rather than professional development
yeah.
has actually been really helpful.
Mm,
So doing the therapy was great, and I had 6 years of therapy while I was doing that and learned an awful lot about myself.
yes, yes, yeah.
I mean, in 6 years of therapy, you've got to learn a bit about yourself,
You have. You have.
especially as more of that was twice a week as well.
Yeah.
Um, so I did learn a lot about myself then, but I don't think that's changed me until more recently when I've been working with a coach and been able to assimilate it all and put it together.
The pieces. You bring the
Yeah,
pieces together. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah. I totally get that because, I say to people, for me, I don't feel like I didn't fully get into understanding who I was and actually loving who I was and accepting myself for who I was until probably about 18 months ago, maybe 2 years, 18 months, that I started that really really sort of clear journey
yeah,
of who I was as an individual and really embracing that because sometimes people say, oh, you might know who you are, and I feel like I see people say, oh yeah, I know who I am, but do you actually accept it? Do you love that person? Do you accept
yeah,
who that person
yeah,
is, or are you still putting limits on them? Are you still
yeah,
feeling like, well, maybe you are a bit of an odd one out, maybe, all of these questions that we still, put on top of ourselves.
yeah.
So, yeah,
I think that actually, although I knew who I was and I had started to accept myself, especially after leaving the NHS, which was sort of December 24, the clear thing for me was I was diagnosed with combined type ADHD.
right.
And that as soon as I started to read all that information a couple of years ago, it started to fall into place. And I resisted having the going for an assessment for a long time until this year, really, and then was assessed and told, yeah, you've got combined type ADHD. And that's when I think I started to think, do you know what? All that stuff about too
Yeah,
loud, too fidgety,
yeah,
dreamer, and all that
yeah,
stuff. Well, that's exactly who I'm supposed to be because that's how
yeah,
my brain works.
absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah.
When you so I always think that, when you're moving into the space that you're supposed to be, or the areas that you want to, I mean, especially maybe when you got to this stage of your life where you decided to do what you do now and help women, um, when you were making these decisions, how scary was that for you in terms of the changes in your life? Because you've had a few changes anyway, but how scary was it to make those changes? Because we always have sometimes those negative voices in our heads that tell us, well, can you do this? Are you good enough? And all of that. But you can have the negative voices outside, people around you saying, what are you doing? Can you really do this? What was
Yeah.
it like for you? Did you always have support around you, or did you feel like you had some sort of negativity?
I had the negative voice, I think, partly, mostly when I left the NHS because of and I needed to leave. I knew I needed to leave, but also there was a part of me that was saying, "But that's a regular wage.
Yeah,
How are you going to leave if you leave?"
yeah,
Um, I also had a slight cushion with that in that I'd already taken my pension, so I did have that, but there was still that voice in me going, "But it's not enough. It's not enough." My husband was very supportive though,
yeah,
and everybody around me was most people around me were, "But you can do it. You can do it." And
and
I had
that's
a
good.
year.
That's good.
Yeah, I did have a year after I left that last year that was seriously scary because things kind of felt as if they were falling apart.
Mm.
Um, but I'm stubborn.
Yeah,
And I was
like
not going to
me.
give up.
Yeah, yeah. You're going to go for it, whatever. You're going
Yeah,
to say, well, there's
yeah,
going to be a way out of this.
yes, exactly. Yeah, and I just kept plodding along and um, pushing forward and developing the programs that I've got now, and developing myself as well,
Yeah.
the way I believed in myself and the energy work that I do. And this year's been so much better than last year.
Oh,
So so it did, yeah. But towards the end of the last year, it started to get better,
better. Yeah,
and I could see changes. So
yeah.
yeah, but it was quite scary, that
Hmm.
that kind of. But I think I also believe that that falling apart had to happen
So,
to
yeah,
let go of all the kind of corporate
yeah.
conditioning that you get from working with a big organization.
Hmm. Yeah,
Um,
yeah. Being in that place where you feel like, oh, I have to do it like this, or I have
yeah,
to sort of like create this kind of framework or whatever. And as you
yeah,
say, things have to fall apart, all the pieces have to come apart so you can put them back
yeah,
together in the right way.
yeah,
Um, that can be extremely scary. And I can imagine, people listening to this right now, who feel like really stuck. And especially if you've been working with a company and getting like that regular wage,
yeah,
it's hard to make a decision to say, I'm going to make a complete change. And I'm not, saying that we've all got responsibilities. So, you have to make an
yeah,
informed decision about things. But I remember when I came from corporate and I worked in corporate environment for over 20 years. And so when I made the decision that I wanted and I needed to live my true life in terms of using all the skills that I had and being able to think for myself, and I just wanted to do that. But I knew that was a big step to make because obviously I've had my regular wage, I had my bonuses, I had all of these things. And but what I did is I put a plan in place. And I
yeah,
think we're sensible enough to know you have to put a plan in place, but it's important to start putting that plan in place and then start taking the steps with the
yeah,
plan because, nothing's going to change if you don't start making things
yeah,
change,
yeah,
And I think sometimes we put the barriers in our heads and say, well, what if I can't do this? I can't do that. I can't do this. But once you start putting a plan in place, I love putting a plan in place. I really do. I'm one of these people who are like, oh, let's get this plan working. Because once I've got a plan, I know I can go, right, this is the first step. This is the next step. So and so and so and so. So,
yeah,
yeah, plan is so important. And
yeah,
then it just gets more and more exciting then because the more you take the steps, the more exciting it gets because you can see the end.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah.
yeah,
And a lot of my family, I'm sure, thought I'd lost it a little bit because we'd had a few years where I lost my mum, I lost my dad, my husband had major heart surgery, and I was still employed at that point. And of
Yeah.
course, those things happening, I was able to take time off and still have
Right.
money
Yeah.
coming in, which
Yeah.
obviously is
Can't
self-employment.
do when you're
Don't have.
self-employed.
No,
No, exactly.
you don't have.
But
But
then again, the flip side, what we don't see or we don't realize is that we're slowly disappearing in those types of
yes,
environments
yeah,
because
yeah,
we're so comfortable because of the fact that we're getting that regular wage, but we're disappearing as people
yeah,
in
yeah,
that environment.
yeah.
And it's
And
a hard pill to swallow because it's hard because we are in a society that makes us think that just keep being safe and just keep doing the same thing all the time.
yeah,
But um, but yeah,
yeah.
it's just being able to see that bigger picture.
Well, I don't know about you, but I got to the point where yes, there was a wage coming in every month and what have you, but I actually didn't feel safe anymore.
No, no me. Yeah.
So
And
it
did
was
you feel like I've shared this with people because I've said, yes, the other people who are in these environments where they're getting a regular wage will say, oh, well, yes, I'm safe and I've got this regular wage coming in. And I said, and I usually say, well, actually, how safe are you? Because you have no control over
mm,
that. You can come in next week and just be given notice that your job is going to go. So that's totally out of the blue. While if you're managing what's happening in your life, you can say, right, I'm going to move this way, or I'm going to turn that way, or I'm going to take this step, or I'm going to do that. You have more control over what
mm,
happens in your life. And I think maybe it's a thing where we just need to trust ourselves, trust
yeah,
our intuition that we can
absolutely.
do this.
Yeah,
And a lot of people are hiding from trusting themselves because that's what it comes down to. I
yeah,
said, at that time when I left that job, I knew I was going to survive because I trust myself to do this. Even if I've got to stock shelves somewhere while I'm working through it, I'm going to make sure it happens.
yeah,
But yes, it's the coming back to who you are and trusting who you are as an individual.
yeah. And I think that voice gets louder when the minute you plant that seed in your head, I think it starts to get louder and
It
louder and
does.
louder. And I could hear mine getting louder.
Yeah, so true. So
Yeah.
true. Oh, I love our conversation, but we're going to bring this to a close, and I've got some quick fire questions for you. You can put a little bit of meat on the bones if you like, but I always ask all of these questions right at the end of the podcast. And my first one is, do you understand what makes you truly happy?
I think I do now. Yeah. Yeah.
And
I
what's
think
that?
so. Well, I think being outside actually,
Yeah,
walking the dog first thing in the morning, especially well, even in the rain. Because we
yeah.
walk around the farmland, we walk around the woods. We live right next to a large area of woodland. So being
Hmm.
able to get out there and watching the seasons change, watching the trees change, watching what's growing, and also watching the farmyard as well and how that
That's
changes.
not surprising because you've
Yeah,
got that from childhood.
being able to see the rabbits playing and all the different birds and things like that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
nice. Okay. Next question is, how are you with getting still to feel emotion?
a lot better than I used to be. A lot better than I used to be. Still struggle sometimes,
Hmm.
um, but I'm actually just doing some training in functional breathwork at the moment, and using that to actually help me get still. I
Yeah,
think it's really helped.
yeah, yeah. And it's like you said, because you know that you are naturally somebody who's on the go all the time,
Yeah.
fidgety, always thinking. And it's not just physically fidgety, it's the brain. Your
Yes,
brain's always
absolutely.
going,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah,
So being able to switch off and be still and, being able to, because I always feel like being still is where you get our direction from, how we
yeah.
get our direction. If we're too busy doing, we don't hear that inner voice. We don't
No,
see the direction to go in.
no.
So
For
so yeah,
me, going there's the woodland. There's a lot of streams. Used to be quite industrial. There was a mill down there, so the mill race is still there. Going and sitting on a rock by the stream
I love
can
that.
help me.
Yeah,
Yeah,
love it. I love being by water. I think water's
yeah,
really good for that. Have you found your tribe?
yes, I have. Yeah,
Oh,
yeah, I
do
think
you,
so.
yeah, do you have different tribes or do you just have one main tribe?
Um, well, we've got friends at home who I would say are probably a tribe as well, but I think my main tribe, when I look at them, they're probably all neurodivergent,
Yeah,
which actually for me is great because
I get
I
you.
actually feel like I fit for the
Yeah,
first time in my life.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
You get them.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Finally, do you love yourself unconditionally?
Yes, I think I do now.
I love
Yeah,
that.
yeah. And I'm also starting to not be bothered if people don't like me because
Yeah,
I don't like everybody, so why should everybody like me?
the best attitude. The best attitude. Life's too short to be worrying
Yeah,
about whether people like you or not, honestly.
yeah,
And especially if you've got your tribe, you've already got your tribe. You've got
exactly.
the people that like you and love you.
Yeah,
So, yeah. Oh, Jan, thank you so much for being on my podcast. I've loved
thank
our
you.
chat and I've loved finding out about you, finding out about your inspiration, and just what your journey has been like. And I'm sure my listeners has been inspired by you too. And hopefully they'll be inspired to take little steps that we've
Yeah,
talked about. Where if somebody wants to find you, if anybody's listening right now, where's the best place online to find you?
probably Instagram and Facebook actually.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, just my name,
Yeah,
Jan
just under your
Ockendon.
name. That's fine. I will share all your links with this podcast anyway, but I just wanted to obviously get you to say if anybody's listening right now and thinking, oh, I want to check her out.
Yeah,
They can find you online,
yeah,
on social media.
yeah.
Well, I just want to say thanks again. Thank you so much for being a guest and for being so open with us. And thank you to everyone who has been listening today. I am going to be back again with another amazing guest next week. But in the meantime, keep being the true you. Bye, everyone.